This Halloween, party with your favorite monsters during Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the fog. I am Wolfman Robin. What a gloriously spooky week we had last week over for Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. HHN 34 announced all of their scare zones. We're going to talk about that on this very episode, as well as speculate about what we can look forward to next. And some things came out from a UK event, a UK conference, to talk about some stuff over there as well. So, fun episode. Appreciate you coming over here to hang out in the fog with me. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this with the first official announcement of scare zones for HHN 34. And they did it throughout the week, one a day. And I'm so glad they did it this way. In the past, they've kind of announced all the scare zones all in once, like a big drop in one like post, or like 2 and 3 in one post and all that stuff. This week, this year, last week, they announced all of them day to day. So we're going to go to them in order. Going to read the information off of their Twitter because, one, I don't take notes. We just do the thing over here. And two, it's not on their website yet. So we're going to read it off of their official X account. Without further ado, let's talk about the first one that was announced. That is a Scare Zone announcement, The Origins of Horror. There is your lovely art for it. Enter a decaying conservatory of twisted vines where artists carve tributes to Halloween Horror Nights 34. You'll encounter monstrous crows, gargoyles, and more. So this, again, beautiful artwork, matches the vibe that they've talked about with gothic horror that they kind of wanted to be part of the whole event. We've kind of seen this tease when they do preview merchandise in the store and all that. We see the setup around it has the vines and the classic architecture and all that stuff. Love the idea. Love that it sounds like we're gonna get statues that are gonna be really cool looking. We're gonna have gargoyles coming after us, murderous crows, which is kind of like a Hollywood thing that they're bringing over to Orlando this year. Love that. Sounds freaking fantastically awesome. Art looks great. Classic horror vibes. Love it. Can't wait to experience that for sure. Next up, they announced Masquerade Dance with Death. Scare Zone announcement. You're invited to a masquerade ball where bloodthirsty vampires lurk behind ornate disguises. When their masks fall, masks is not a word. When their masks fall, you'll become their prey. So, sounds like, again, beautiful artwork. The artwork is on key this year. Again, you see the gothic vibe back there. If you look a little bit closer, you see those gothic vibe windows and vines and all that stuff. So, hinting at a theme of a gothic horror vibe, classic horror vibe going on throughout the whole event. That sounds amazing. Masquerade, you're gonna have these cool masks, detailed masks. It sounds like there's gonna be creatures behind the mask that you got to look out for that can be coming after you and all that stuff. Yeah, I can't wait to see what that ends up being and how cool and involved and all that stuff that this ends up being, because that sounds really cool. Masquerade, anytime they masquerade, dance with death, anytime you kind of tease or bring in the idea of like music and horror, it always works very well. Think of like the vamp zones in the past and stuff like that. I can't wait to see what this ends up being and how they get us with the scaries over there. The masquerade dance with death sounds like one of those zones that you probably want to hang out in and all that stuff as well. We've had those in the past with some zones where you just want to vibe in there. Like, that's what you should do with all the scare zones, honestly. I think some of us always get into like a rush and all that stuff. I've done it myself as well. Like, obviously I spent a ton of time in the Chucky scare zone when that was there, and then the Rob Zombie Hellbilly Deluxe scare zone. Spent a lot of time there because those are personal IPs to me and all that stuff. But this sounds great. Sounds like something we should spend a lot of time and have a good time in. Up next, they announced Scare Zone announcement: the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane. So here is your lovely artwork there. It looks very classic horror Halloween. Let's see. Travel down a spooky winding path to a mysterious home where trick-or-treaters are transformed into feral felines. Be careful or you'll be next. Sounds like my buddy Zach over there at the Death Curse Club. Be sure to check out their show. Mentioned it still sounds very Stephen King-y, which it does. I can see that. It sounds kind of very Goosebumpies to me as well. Like Goosebumps was classic R.L. Stein stories. Like getting turned into cats and all that stuff sounds fun. It sounds interesting. It seems like we're gonna have cat creatures coming at us. Looks like there's gonna be a path. This is probably in the tight scare zone that you're gonna walk through. It looks like based on the artwork. Again, let's pull this up. Maybe you're gonna have pumpkins. I don't know where any of these things are at, but maybe you have pumpkins back in the trees and all that stuff. And There is a bit of theming that has been put over there in towards the kids' land. That's the area where you walk normally to get to two of the houses. There is like a big thing that's been put together over there, construction that's been done over there. That might be this house that they're going to be putting up, and that's cool to spill out over there because normally that area is just like a big walkway where you're leading up to Simpsons that way or heading into the kids zone over here and all that stuff to get to the houses and then walk through all there. But that sounds cool. It sounds fun, classic horror vibe in the artwork, and can't wait to see killer cats coming after us. That'll be interesting. Will it be as scary as the Cats movie? Don't know. But nonetheless, there we go. Next up, we had Scare Zone announcement: Mutations, Toxic 20s. There you go. Fantastic art. One thing to know about me is I love green. Green is my favorite color, especially that neon, slimy looking green is always great when it comes to horror stuff. So that is a fun idea right there, to say the least. So needless to say, really cool artwork there. Scare Zone in a 1920s neighborhood, a BuzzCon truck with radioactive cargo crashes into a mobster getaway car, sending the city into toxic pandemonium. So obviously, this is going to be dealing with one of the city areas in the park and all that stuff. Toxic sounds cool. BuzzCon is something to pick up on there as well. BuzzCon has had like a recent history with Halloween Horror Nights. Go back a couple years to the Bugs Eaten Alive house. They were part of that, and then last year they were part of oh my God, Slaughter Cinema 2 and Triplets of Terror. They had a little bit of a mention in there as well. So BuzzCon is one of those Easter eggy things for us Halloween Horror Nights fans and all that stuff. Sounds fun. Toxic creatures, good vibe there and all that stuff. Kind of want to thank San Francisco just because it's by the water and like toxic stuff all there and all that. But this seems like big city kind of area. So maybe New York, maybe San Francisco. We'll see. I don't know. But, that sounds cool. And then they announced on the last day two really cool things, but they're not scare zones. They were not announced as scare zones. So you notice if you look at their X account, those four things that we just went over all said scare zone announcement, scare zone announcement, scare zone announcement, scare zone announcement. Up next, they announced street experiences. So the first one that they announced them together actually, but the first photo in the announcement is this: Mel's Die-In Zombies, which we know we love Mel's. Mel's is a huge thing for Halloween Horror Nights fans, and seeing that die-in is like a big deal every single year. Then last year we had actual merch for it, Universal Orlando annual pass holder merch for it and all that stuff. I've got the shirt over there. I don't wear the Halloween Horror Nights shirts too much. I do. I'm wearing one now, but there are some that I don't pull out all that often unless I'm on the trip itself because I want to keep them as close to condition as they can be. But yeah, having Mel's involved in it just feels right. We love like that. We love that environment and all that stuff. And this, just looking at that image again, zombie bar hops and all that stuff. I don't know if they'll be on roller skates or not. If they are, that'd be cool. I mean, we've seen roller skating at some haunts and all that stuff where they'll be on skates and they slide on their knee pads and send sparks all over the place and all that. I don't know if we'll get that with Mel's Die-In Zombies or not, but I love the idea. I like the idea that they're going to be this classic vibe of the fit the diner. They're going to look like zombies. They're going to have that classic diner look to their costumes and everything. Absolutely love that. And it's going to be a fun thing to experience. And the leather street experience that they announced, all new street experience, is Club Horror. I assume this is going where the HHN bar takes place, not the Peacock bar. I think the Peacock bar will probably still be what it is. But this is over there in that area by Cross of Transformers, right there by Mel's as well, in front of the lagoon and all that stuff, where there's normally like a bar set up, and then they're setting up photo opportunities out there as well, like they did last year with characters and all that stuff. So I like the idea, like the vibe. Sounds like they're going with a lot of immersive, cool, different experience vibes throughout the park and all that stuff with this year's event, which is great. I like that idea. So having, just 4 scare zones still, but it seems like they're making them bigger. Like it sounds like that cat one's going to expand a little bit further out than it normally does if it's in that area that I'm thinking it's in. And it just involving you and all this stuff and having this area and that area. Club Horror, I don't think that's Dead Coconut Club either. I think Dead Coconut Club will still be its own thing. So I'm excited about, man. Like I love all this stuff and no IPs. And I'm somebody who's an IP person. I think this might be the first year. I have to really sit down and think about it a little bit harder. But I think it's the first year I haven't had an IP experience. Like I mentioned Chucky before, Killer Clowns before, Rob Zombie, of course, Blumhouse a couple times, Crypt TV was there at one point in time. Seems like there's always been like an IP scare zone. There's not one this year. I'm kind of fine with that, honestly, because all of these sound fantastic. The artwork looks amazing for all of them. They all sound like great experiences. Couldn't be upset at all about any of that, man. So bring it on is what I say. I'm excited for all of that. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling down there as well. Where we're at now is we still have, so we now have all the scares for Orlando. We have all the scare zones announced. We've got, I assume, all the scare zones. There's just four, and then the two experiences there, um, street experiences. Why it was so hard to remember that. And then we have 8 of the houses announced. Five Nights at Freddy's floating around out there. We assume it's a house, maybe a house scare zone combination. Another IP house to be announced, rumored to be WWE. There's still a show to be announced. We assume it's Nightmare Fuel. Dead Coconut Club, they still have to announce. A tribute store, we still got to figure out what that's going to be, and all that stuff. So what I'm thinking is this week, as the release of this episode, Comic-Con is happening. And on Thursday of this week, on the, what is it, 24th, right? 24th, Blumhouse is doing a panel at Comic-Con with Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We know, as I mentioned before, that Five Nights at Freddy's will be at Halloween Horror Nights. They have gone out of their way to not announce what it's going to be. We all assume it's going to be a house. But we have not gotten any other word other than that. The first mention of Five Nights at Freddy's being at Halloween Horror Nights was done at a con in Mexico. Um, so I think we're doing this. We're selling the brand of Five Nights at Freddy's a little bit more, and then I think I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I think that's when we'll get our announcements. Thursday, normally an announcement day. I think it's early in the day. I think it's around 4 something, if I remember correctly, when that panel is taking place. So it'll be about 1 o'clock on the East Coast side. So typical, kind of close to a regular. We've had announcements around 1 o'clock and all that stuff before. So I think this is when we finally find out what Five Nights at Freddy's is going to be. And I think it's about time we get that figured out. So that'll be this week. Next week would be the 31st, the end of July. Maybe that's where you get your WWE rumored house announcement. SummerSlam is happening. That's a big event for WWE every year. It's the first time it's going to be 2 nights. So why not announce it then and, talk about it during the event and all this stuff and sell it for WWE fans to go to Halloween Horror Nights. And then we get to August. We have 2 weeks. We'll have the 8th and 15th. Those are Fridays. So 7th and 14th, they announce anything on Thursdays. Because remember, the event doesn't start till the 29th. Premium Scream Night is on the 28th. But on the 22nd, they start the Unmasking the Horror 3-house tour on the 22nd. So like a week before the event starts, they open that up for people to go experience the houses. I don't know why they do that, but that is something they do. And you got to have everything announced by then. So we'll have all the houses announced, I think, by the end of this month. It would make sense to me, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do that. So that's where we're at right now. I think we'll get Five Nights at Freddy's this week, WWE next week. Then after that, we got to start talking food, tribute store, Dead Coconut Club announcement, and all that good stuff. So I still got stuff to put out there, but we're getting very, very close to the event. Very close indeed. Now, something else took place last week that was really cool, and a ton of information has come out from this and all this stuff. I'm not going to talk about all of it because I know it's rare in this day and age for a lot of people, but for me, I'm not into spoiling content and spoiling things and all that stuff. So if you want to read this, it was posted by somebody on X by the name of Darren Scott. Ton of information came out about houses and all that stuff around the event. What the houses could be themed towards, what's going to go on in the houses, stuff like that. Not full-on spoilers, but still gives you a good idea of what's going on in there. So I don't necessarily want to talk about that in case people don't want anything spoiled. But there's a UK event with Laura Souls doing the stuff. We love her. She does a great job. She's awesome. And there's a couple of things I did want to talk about that I don't think are necessarily spoilers, and will get you prepared for some things here. So first off, let's talk about the Terrifier house. Just in the instance of, it was heavily rumored. I remember talking about this with Terrifier. It sounds like you're getting soaked in this house, and you have the option. Apparently, it's going to be like the Dragon House. Was that last year? I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of that house, but you can go and there's like choose a side. And apparently, this house is going to have. Not apparently, they said it. You can go one side. If you don't feel like getting soaked in blood, you can go one side. And if you're a freak like me and you want to get soaked in blood, you're going to go the other side. Now, that does open the opportunity to do that house back to back and run it like one night. You want to run it last house of the night, like, and do it back to back. Like, oh, go on the easy side this side. Then it's the end of the night. We're going crazy. Let's get soaked with blood side over here first off, and all that stuff. It's going to be weird. I think when it comes to this house, like you would have to, I don't know, almost experience the non soaked in blood side first, because once you experience that soaked in blood side, I don't think you want to experience the other side again, because that's just an amount of immersiveness that is like you get that taken away from you to go through it regular style. Just seems off to me. So maybe the first time you go through the Terrifier side, go through that, non blood soaked side, and then transfer over to the other side next time you go through the house. Again, maybe run it back to back if you want to, and then get soaked in blood on the other side. But it sounds like you're getting drenched from what that sounds like. So, um, wear your best white shirts. Why not? Be covered in blood and all that stuff. But be prepared. The Terrifier house has been heavily rumored to be soaked in blood. I'm sure they'll have some kind of ponchos. They mentioned ponchos several times. I'm sure there'll be like a Terrifier themed poncho or a Halloween Horror Nights poncho or something out there for you to pick up. But yeah, be prepared for Terrifier. Other things I want to talk about, photo ops at hotels will be back this year. So Studios Islands, they will have those. The Tribute Store will also be back as well, but no other details given at the time of the UK media event. There will be extra added content that will take immersion to the next level, but nothing further was really divulged on that. Fans of Five Nights at Freddy's can expect announcements incoming, stressing that you are going to love the things, plural, that they are doing. So things, it sounds like, I don't know. Typically, we have what, 5 scare zones? Maybe they're doing a Five Nights at Freddy's house and scare zone. Maybe they're doing a lot of stuff. Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know. I really don't know. They're being very vague about it. I'm sure one of the remaining IPs is Five Nights at Freddy's, but um, get announcements soon. Again, I think it's this week. I could very well be wrong. If I am, fine. Doesn't bother me. But I think it's this week. It just makes sense for it to be this week. And then let's see. Scare zones, quotes, more places that we're affecting all around the park. So again, that kind of goes into what we talked about with the cat lady at Crooked Lane. There is a stage set up there. Maybe it's the start of a house. I don't know. But it's in an area that typically doesn't have anything Halloween Horror Nights in it. It's just normally a walkthrough area to get to either go Simpson side or go Kid Zone side. So yeah, it seems like they're moving things more out there. Quote, as you cross through the turnstiles, we are sending you into the conservatory. The trust sign will have the conservatory gates on the outside. So that's the thing right there. And the trust itself, yes, the trust itself, quote, the sign will not be red this year. That sign will lean into a turquoise blue of the overall theming. Laura Soul says she's been asking for that change for years. Okay, and I think that's the last thing I saved. Again, a lot of information about the houses were involved in that stuff as well. Stuff you'll see in every single house Scare Zone was talked about. Not everything you'll see, obviously, but a good detail of information about that. If you want to know that stuff, again, Darren Scott on X put all this information up there from the UK media event if you want to check that out. As far as the trust goes, I am a fan of that, honestly. I like the classic vibe of the trust, saying Halloween Horror Nights all in red and all that stuff. Looks great. Red is, of course, a classic horror vibe color, but I like that freaking blue turquoisey vibe, like the ghosty, spooky color vibe. I like that a lot. To see that in Halloween Horror Nights, we've had it before in like a Halloween Horror Nights color, which I've loved in the past, and I wish I got an image to show that. But I love that color. I think it fits great. I'm excited about it. The ghosty turquoisey blue to be on the overall truss, saying Halloween Horror Nights and all that stuff. It's great. I typically have not walked under that truss too often. Typically, if I am, I'm walking out of the event because I'm normally a stay and stream guy. Stay and scream guy, where I'm already, I get to the park early, get into the designated area to stay there until the house opens for you to go to the house, and all that stuff is normally what happens. Last year we did, and I do recommend doing this. There was a day, I want to say maybe it was Friday, where we hit the Dead Coconut Club, had a good freaking time there, just sat around, vibed in the vibing areas of it all with the Blumhouse and the awesome 80s music going on, and had our fun little drinks and all that stuff. And then the event started. Then we made our way over there and walked through it because I'm not going to get there early. Like I get there early for stay and stream, but I'm not going to get there early enough to stand in that long line for what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long people get there and wait for the gates to open and all that stuff. I know that's a cool thing. If you're into it, awesome. But we know me. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be there early. But if you do that, it is cool and seeing that truss and walking around that. But like I said, we did that Dead Coconut Club hangout and then walked in there with the fog and the vibe and all that stuff going on, the truss up there. It is a cool vibe. So that's the thing I say to do. If you want to get there hours early and stand in front of that gate or sitting down in front of that gate for hours upon time, waiting for them to do the opening. I mean, you should experience opening ceremonies at least once. I have done that as well. I had experienced it on like a side view. We were at the what is the Peacock Bar or whatever that thing is called, the Peacock Restaurant Delio or whatever. Not Peacock, the NBC Bar and Grill. NBC Peacock, you get the gist. And we saw the opening ceremonies. We saw them walk around the stairs, jacking them, and then do the whole thing. Saw it in a way. Opening ceremonies are really cool. They're I don't want to talk about last year's too much, but they're normally pretty cool and all that stuff. So if you want to do that, more power to you. I'm just saying, from my own personal experience, I haven't really done it except for last year with the Dead Coconut Club start and all that stuff. Highly suggesting a Dead Coconut Club, hanging out there and vibing and all that stuff. I can't wait to see what this year is going to be. Heavy competition because last year's was awesome. But I think that is going to do it for this episode. I went much longer than expected, but I love talking about Halloween Horror Nights, man. And I hope you had a good time here and appreciate you hanging out with me and all that stuff. Dropping in the comments how you're feeling, how you're excited about all that stuff and all that, man. 2 more IPs to announce, and then we've got all of our houses and zones supposedly announced. We'll see what Five Nights at Freddy's wants to drop on us, if it's going to be a zone area as well. Will Megan Horde come around? Will there be chainsaw people coming around? Is there all kinds of other things going on? What's going to happen with the tribute store? All this stuff. What's happening with Dead Coconut Club? All kinds of stuff, man. But nonetheless, we are here. We are getting closer and closer to the start of Halloween Horror Nights. What I mean, again, the Unmasking the Horror tour starts on the Three House Unmasking the Horror tour starts on August 22nd. This episode's releasing on the 21st. Month away, babies. Or a month away from some more stuff going on. A month and 7 days from the event officially starting. Premium Scream Night is, of course, like a media event, basically. We'll talk about that later. But that's going to do it for this episode. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. Hope you had a wonderful time listening to this goofball talk Halloween Horror Nights with all of you. Appreciate you hanging out in the fog with me. I like to always remind you that you are capable of incredible things and that you truly do matter, man. Trust in yourself, believe in yourself, chase those dreams, and never give up on them, man. Things will work out for you as long as you're continuing to push for those things and working in yourself and believe in yourself. So give yourself some peace, give yourself some love, trust in yourself, because you matter, capable, incredible things, man. So give yourself some peace there. Let's get ready to hang out in the fog. That'll do it for this week's episode of Into the Fog. I am Wolfman Rob. Can't wait to see you all later in the fog.